So the changes that are coming into place with the Danzel framework, the 5 core controls won't be changing. Any of the actual requirements themselves are not changing. It's just that the scheme is becoming a lot stricter, a lot clearer, and that's all based on recent findings from when they've actually gone and assessed people's questionnaires. So one of those is going to be a change to the marking scheme,
Right.
which, assess applicants won't see very much. It's just more, it will have an overall effect on applicants. So previously, with having MFA, multi-factor authentication, enabled on cloud services, if you didn't have it enabled on all of your cloud services, you would have been granted a non-compliance, and you're allowed 2 non-compliances to still be able to pass Cyber Essentials. Now the marking scheme has changed. If you do not have MFA enabled on all of your cloud services where it is technically available, you will be awarded an automatic fail, and that's your assessment gone. So that's one thing to look out for.
Okay, just on that, because there will be cloud applications that are in use which don't have MFA as an option.
Mhm.
Does that mean that organizations will no longer be able to use those clouds and have to find an alternative?
No, no, that's not the case at all. So what Cyber Essentials requires is that where the cloud provider offers to MFA, or it's available, technically available is the terminology they use, then it has to be enabled. And that includes sometimes you have to pay a bit extra or you have to buy some add-ons to be able to get MFA. If that's the case, you do still have to do that to be compliant with Cyber Essentials. But if the provider full stop does not offer it, there is no option for MFA, then that's fine. Cyber Essentials will just ask you to list those cloud services so that the assessors can go away and validate that.
Okay, so they'll go away and check and make sure that MFA isn't available, and that you're
Yeah.
not trying to pull the wool over somebody's eyes by saying that it's not. Okay, that's fine. What's the next one? Is there something else?
Yeah, so another marking criteria change that's going to be an automatic fail is not deploying high risk or critical vulnerabilities, and that's for both operating systems and application patches within 14 days. So they have this very strict time frame, and 14 days is best practice anyway. Previously, if you weren't deploying all critical and high risk vulnerabilities within that 14 days, you would be awarded a non-compliance. And again, you can have 2 of those. Now it's an automatic fail if you don't have that in place. And those are some questions that will ask you to describe the process. If you don't have automatic updates enabled, you're doing it manually, describe the process of how you're ensuring that you're meeting that 14-day time frame. So this is another one where you want to have process documented before you even go for Cyber Essentials.
And I guess many organizations are going to have an MSP or a service provider, which or who will be providing that type of patching service.
Mhm.
Where does the responsibility sit? Because if I'm an organization, I say, well, I engage with this MSP, with a provider, to carry out patching for me, then is that my responsibility or is that their responsibility because I've engaged with them to do that?
So in that case, it's still the applicant's responsibility because I mean, if you go to Cyber Essentials, you submit your assessment and you say, no, we don't have this, they're going to ask you why you don't have it. They won't ask your MSP. So it is a conversation that companies need to have with their MSP at that point and say, look, we're going for Cyber Essentials, so we need to meet this 14-day time frame. Most MSPs, because it's best practice, are probably already meeting in or around that time frame. So it's just making sure that that is happening. And then, it's your responsibility to go and do some spot checks every now and then and make sure that your MSP are keeping on top of things. But you are just telling them what to do and they are doing it. So if you want to go for Cyber Essentials, you have to tell them the way that you want it done to be compliant with Cyber Essentials, and then they can go away and do that.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Any more?
Yeah, so another change will be to the scope of the assessment. So previously, it was enough to just give a brief description of what areas of your organization will be in scope, and you could leave it at that. Now, Cyber Essentials want you to be very clear on what's out of scope. So they've added a question in for that where you have to describe what you won't be assessing as part of your scope. So when you go, if anyone's seen the Cyber Essentials questionnaire, you'll see that the question is worded as, are you assessing your whole organization? The reason they do that is because it is just easier to do your whole organization. If you say no at that stage, then you kind of have to break down, right, what are we assessing? Which systems are in scope? What's not in scope? So generally, it's easier to just do your whole organization. Where we see that sometimes an issue, especially with a lot of clients we work with, there's a lot in the education sector. They might have legacy systems, or they're still using Windows 10 devices that are no longer supported, and they still need those legacy systems to run one particular service. For those ones that they can't get rid of, they would fail you in Cyber Essentials. Any legacy system, anything that's no longer in support would fail you. So with those ones, you can put them out of scope. There are some requirements around this. They have to be completely segregated, put on a separate VLAN, no communication with the rest of the IT environment, limited connection to the internet, completely segregated, isolated. If that's the case, you can put that out of scope. But now with the Danzel changes, you'll just need to write down what you've put out of scope, why you've put it, what are the protections around it. They'll just be asking for a brief description around that.
Okay, that's fine. That's all clear. Next one. Is the next one?
Yes, there's one more. So this is not to the Cyber Essentials Basic, but with the Cyber Essentials Plus, for anyone that's gone for it, I know there was someone in the chat that says they've just achieved Cyber Essentials Plus. So good timing, because they are changing something quite vital to that. So previously, when you went for the Cyber Essentials Plus and you got the auditors on site and you had your testing, as I mentioned, they would take a sample of devices. So they'll take that sample of devices, they'll test it. It's pretty common that they will find some vulnerabilities or something, because between the time that you've submitted your assessment and then got your audit booked and scheduled, there might be some vulnerabilities that pop up. So what they do is they give you a time frame. It could be a week, it could be a couple of weeks. They'll give you a time frame that you have to fix all of those issues, close the gaps, remediate the vulnerabilities, and then they'll come and retest that same sample. Now what they're doing is they're not allowed to retest the same sample anymore. So they'll find those issues, you'll go away and you'll fix them, but when the auditors come back on site, they have to select a different sample now. And that's just to make sure that you're not just fixing the controls that you need just to pass your assessment, but you're actually fixing issues across the entire estate.
Is Danzel going to make things harder, or is it just stricter?
Yeah, so I'd say it's not harder in principle, because the controls are all still the same, the requirements are still the same. It does just make the scheme a lot stricter and less forgiving, especially around the MFA and the patching. So any organizations that already have really strong device management, you've got your clear update processes in place, they will be fine. But the organizations that haven't really got those formal processes, you don't have things documented, or you're unsure of what you would and wouldn't include in your scope, those ones will just need to tighten things up across the environment before they can apply for Cyber Essentials.